Racist supervisor humiliates black intern, then discovers he's the CEO's nephew. How will this story turn out? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. In the buzzing corporate office of Sterling Enterprises, the day began like any other. Employees hustled about, phones rang incessantly, and the clattering of keyboards filled the air. For most, it was just another Monday morning. But for Jamal, it was his first day as an intern, and the stakes felt monumental. Jamal had been ecstatic to land this opportunity. Sterling Enterprises was one of the most prestigious firms in the city, known for its high-profile clients and cutting-edge projects. As a recent college graduate, Jamal saw this as his chance to prove himself. Dressed sharply in a navy blue suit and clutching a leather-bound notebook, he stepped into the sleek, glass-walled office space with a mixture of excitement and nerves. "Good morning. You must be Jamal," said a cheerful voice. Jamal turned to see a young woman in her late 20s with a welcoming smile. "I'm Emily, the HR coordinator. I'll be showing you around." "Good morning, Ms. Emily," Jamal replied politely, his nerves easing slightly. "Just Emily is fine," she said with a laugh. "Let me introduce you to your supervisor." As they walked through the bustling office, Jamal couldn't help but marvel at the environment. It was a far cry from the quiet classrooms and small internships he was used to. This was the big leagues. Emily led him to a corner office where a man in his early 40s sat behind a desk cluttered with papers. His sharp suit and stern expression gave him an air of authority. "Mr. Carter, this is Jamal Thompson, our new intern," Emily said brightly. Carter looked up, his gaze briefly landing on Jamal before returning to his work. "Thompson, huh? All right, kid. Let's see if you can keep up," he said curtly, barely masking his disinterest. Jamal extended his hand for a handshake, but Carter ignored it, instead gesturing toward a desk in the far corner of the office. "That's your spot. I'll give you a rundown of what I need later." "Thank you, sir," Jamal said, trying not to let the frosty reception dampen his spirits. He walked over to his desk and began setting up, determined to make a good impression. As the day went on, Jamal quickly realized that working under Carter wasn't going to be easy. The man was demanding, impatient, and quick to criticize. By mid-morning, Carter had already snapped at Jamal twice for minor mistakes, and the other employees seemed to avoid their supervisor as much as possible. "Thompson," Carter barked from across the room. "Where's that report I asked for?" Jamal looked up, confused. "The report? I wasn't given any." "Don't give me excuses, kid," Carter interrupted. "You're here to work, not waste my time." Several employees glanced over, their expressions ranging from pity to discomfort. Jamal's face burned with embarrassment, but he kept his composure. "I'll get started on it right away," he said calmly. Carter sneered. "See that you do." By lunchtime, Jamal was beginning to question whether he was cut out for this. He had barely touched the sandwich he had packed, his mind too occupied with thoughts of Carter's constant criticisms. As he sat alone in the break room, Emily walked in, carrying a cup of coffee. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. "Not at all," Jamal replied, grateful for the company. Emily sat down and gave him a sympathetic look. "Rough first day," Jamal sighed. "You could say that, Mr. Carter. He's, very demanding." Emily chuckled. "That's putting it mildly. Don't take it personally, he's like that with everyone. But you're doing great, Jamal. Don't let him get to you." "Thanks, Emily," Jamal said, managing a small smile. Her words gave him a glimmer of hope. That afternoon, Jamal threw himself into his work, determined to prove his worth. He stayed focused, double-checking every detail and meeting each of Carter's demands without complaint. By the end of the day, he felt a small sense of accomplishment, even if Carter hadn't acknowledged it. But as the week went on, Carter's behavior only got worse. He constantly belittled Jamal in front of others, making snide comments about his abilities and occasionally giving him menial tasks that seemed more like punishments than actual work. Jamal tried to rise above it, but the constant humiliation was starting to take its toll. One particularly bad day, Carter berated Jamal for a minor error in a spreadsheet. Is this the best you can do, Thompson? Maybe you're just not cut out for this kind of work. Jamal clenched his fists under the desk, his heart pounding with a mix of anger and frustration. I'll fix it right away, sir, he said through gritted teeth. You'd better, Carter snapped. I don't have time to babysit. As Carter walked away, Jamal noticed several of his co-workers looking his way. Some offered apologetic smiles, but none spoke up. It was clear that Carter's reputation as a tyrant extended far beyond Jamal. Despite the challenges, Jamal refused to give up. He stayed late most evenings, working tirelessly to perfect his assignments and prove that he belonged at Sterling Enterprises. But no matter how hard he worked, Carter seemed determined to tear him down. One evening, as Jamal was finishing up a report, a senior employee named Marcus approached him. Hey Jamal, Marcus said quietly, can I give you some advice? Of course, Jamal replied, grateful for the support. Don't let Carter get under your skin, Marcus said. He's tough on everyone, but he's especially hard on people who show potential. It's like he sees them as a threat. Jamal raised an eyebrow. A threat? I'm just an intern. Marcus smiled knowingly. Sometimes the people who work the hardest and care the most are the ones who get targeted. Don't let him dim your light. All right? Jamal nodded, Marcus's words resonating deeply. Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate it. What Jamal didn't know was that his perseverance and dedication hadn't gone unnoticed. In fact, someone very important at Sterling Enterprises was keeping a close eye on him. Someone who knew exactly what Jamal was capable of. Unbeknownst to Carter and most of the office, Jamal was the nephew of Robert Sterling, the company's CEO. Robert had encouraged Jamal to apply for the internship under an alias, wanting his nephew to earn his place on merit rather than his family name. But he had been monitoring Jamal's progress from behind the scenes, and he wasn't pleased with what he was hearing about Carter's behavior. As the days turned into weeks, Jamal continued to endure Carter's relentless criticism and hostility. Each day felt like a test of his patience and resilience. While he had begun to grow accustomed to Carter's snide remarks and unreasonable demands, the constant belittling was still a heavy burden to bear. Despite it all, Jamal maintained his professionalism, channeling his frustrations into his work and striving to exceed expectations. But the turning point came during an all-hands team meeting. Carter was presenting a quarterly report to the department, and Jamal had been tasked with preparing a significant portion of the data. He had worked late into the night to ensure everything was accurate and well organized, hoping to avoid any backlash. As Carter began presenting, he paused midway through and frowned at the slide. Who prepared this? He barked, his eyes scanning the room. Jamal hesitated, then raised his hand. I did, sir. Carter's face twisted into a sneer. Well, it's a mess. This graph doesn't make any sense, and the formatting is sloppy. Did you even check your work? Jamal's cheeks burned with embarrassment as the room fell silent. He opened his mouth to respond but was cut off by Carter's scathing tone. This is exactly what I mean when I say you're not ready for this level of work. Maybe internships aren't for everyone. Several employees exchanged uneasy glances, and Jamal felt the weight of their pitying stares. He clenched his fists under the table, biting back the urge to defend himself. He knew the data was correct. He had triple-checked everything. Carter's attack felt more like a deliberate attempt to humiliate him than genuine criticism. After the meeting, Emily approached Jamal in the break room, her expression filled with concern. Hey, are you okay? She asked gently. Jamal exhaled, forcing a small smile. I'm fine. I just need to focus on improving. Jamal, that wasn't your fault, Emily said firmly. Carter's behavior is completely unprofessional, and everyone knows it. You handled it with grace, but you shouldn't have to deal with this. Thanks, Emily, Jamal replied, but I don't want to make waves. I'll just keep my head down and do my best. Emily sighed, clearly frustrated on his behalf. You deserve better than this. Just know that I'm here if you need support. Jamal nodded, grateful for her kindness but determined to navigate the situation on his own terms. Meanwhile, Robert Sterling, the CEO, had been quietly observing the dynamics within the department. He had received reports from multiple employees about Carter's abrasive management style, and while he had been willing to give Carter the benefit of the doubt, the consistent pattern of complaints was impossible to ignore. One afternoon, Robert called Marcus into his office. Marcus, who had worked at Sterling Enterprises for over a decade, was known for his integrity and keen insights into the company's culture. "Marcus, I need your honest opinion," Robert began, leaning back in his chair. "How's the new intern, Jamal Thompson, doing?" Marcus hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Jamal is incredibly hardworking and talented, sir. He's got a great attitude, and he's quick to learn." But he trailed off, clearly hesitant to continue. "But what?" Robert pressed, his expression serious. Marcus sighed. "Carter's been riding him hard. Harder than usual, even for Carter. He's unfairly critical and seems to go out of his way to put Jamal down. It's demoralizing to watch, and honestly, it's not the kind of environment we should be fostering here." Robert nodded, his jaw tightening. "Thank you for your honesty, Marcus. I'll take care of it." Later that week, Robert decided to pay an unannounced visit to the department. As he entered the office, the atmosphere shifted immediately. Employees straightened in their chairs, their conversations falling to hushed whispers. Carter, who had been barking orders at an assistant, froze mid-sentence, his expression morphing into one of forced politeness. "Mr. Sterling," Carter said, plastering on a smile. "What a surprise. To what do we owe the pleasure?" "I thought I'd stop by and see how things are running," Robert replied smoothly, his gaze sweeping the room. "How's the team doing?" "Fantastic," Carter said quickly. "We're hitting all our targets and staying on top of deadlines. The new intern, Thompson, has been adequate." Robert raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. Instead, he turned his attention to Jamal, who was seated at his desk, diligently working on a report. "Jamal, isn't it?" Robert said, walking over. Jamal looked up, startled to see the CEO addressing him directly. "Yes, sir. How are you finding the internship so far?" Robert asked, his tone warm and approachable. Jamal hesitated, glancing briefly at Carter before replying. "It's been a great learning experience, sir. I'm grateful for the opportunity." Robert studied Jamal for a moment, noting the young man's composed demeanor despite the obvious tension in the room. "Good to hear. Keep up the hard work." As Robert left the department, he couldn't shake the sense that there was more to the story than Jamal had let on. He resolved to dig deeper. The breaking point came a few days later during a client presentation. Jamal had spent hours preparing a comprehensive report, only for Carter to dismiss it in front of everyone. "This is amateur work," Carter sneered. "I don't know why we're wasting time on this." Jamal felt the familiar sting of humiliation, but this time, he couldn't stay silent. Summoning all his courage, he spoke up. "With all due respect, sir, the data is accurate, and the report meets the requirements. If there's an issue, I'd be happy to address it." Carter's eyes narrowed, his tone dripping with condescension. "Don't talk back to me, Thompson. Know your place." The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Before Jamal could respond, the door opened, and Robert Sterling walked in. "Actually, I'd like to hear what Jamal has to say," Robert said, his voice calm but authoritative. Carter froze, his face paling. "Mr. Sterling, I didn't realize you were—" Clearly, Robert interrupted, his gaze sharp. "Please, Jamal, continue." Jamal took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I worked hard on this report, and I stand by the accuracy of the data. I believe it provides valuable insights for the client, and I'd be happy to walk everyone through it." Robert nodded. "Let's hear it." As Jamal presented his findings, the room gradually warmed to his confident delivery and well-researched conclusions. By the time he finished, several employees were nodding in agreement, and even the clients looked impressed. "Excellent work, Jamal," Robert said, his praise genuine. "Your dedication and professionalism are evident." Carter, meanwhile, looked as though he wanted to disappear into the floor. After the presentation, the room buzzed with quiet whispers and glances exchanged between employees. The clients expressed their satisfaction with the report, commending its thoroughness and relevance. Robert Sterling, standing at the head of the room, seemed both pleased and contemplative. "Thank you, Jamal," Robert said, breaking the silence. "Your work speaks for itself." Jamal nodded, gratitude and relief washing over him. He couldn't help but notice Carter's stiff posture and the way his jaw clenched. But instead of gloating, Jamal simply gathered his materials and returned to his seat, maintaining his professionalism. As the clients left and the meeting dispersed, Robert lingered, watching the dynamic between Carter and the rest of the team. It was clear to him that Carter's leadership style wasn't just ineffective. It was toxic. The strained atmosphere, the hesitance of employees to speak freely, and the visible discomfort on Jamal's face painted a clear picture. "Carter," Robert said, his voice cutting through the murmurs, "a word in my office." "Now!" Carter's face paled, but he quickly masked his unease with a forced smile. "Of course, Mr. Sterling." In Robert's spacious corner office, the air was thick with tension. Carter stood across from Robert, his hands clasped nervously in front of him. Robert leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable as he studied the man before him. "Do you know why you're here, Carter?" Robert asked calmly. I assume it's about the presentation earlier," Carter stammered. "I realize I may have been a bit harsh with Jamal, but I assure you, I was just trying to push him to do better." Robert raised an eyebrow. "Push him to do better? Is that what you call publicly humiliating him in front of clients and your team? Because from where I'm sitting, it looked like you were tearing him down, not building him up." Carter opened his mouth to respond, but Robert held up a hand to stop him. "I've been hearing complaints about your behavior for months, Carter. Your team is afraid to speak up because they know how you retaliate. And now, you've taken it upon yourself to single out a promising young intern and undermine him at every turn. Care to explain?" Carter's facade cracked, and his shoulders slumped. "Mr. Sterling, I didn't mean any harm. I expect high standards, and sometimes my delivery may come off as unprofessional, demeaning, racist." Robert interrupted, his tone sharp. "You've crossed the line, Carter. And you know what makes this situation even more appalling? Jamal Thompson is my nephew." Carter's eyes widened in shock, his face turning ashen. "And nephew?" he stammered. "I had no idea." "Clearly," Robert said coldly, "because if you had known, I doubt you would have treated him, or anyone for that matter, with such blatant disrespect." Meanwhile, back in the department, Jamal was packing up his desk for the day, unaware of the conversation taking place in Robert's office. He was tired, emotionally drained, but also quietly proud of himself for standing up for his work during the presentation. Emily approached him, her expression a mix of admiration and concern. "Jamal, you were amazing in there," she said. "You handled yourself with so much grace." "Thanks, Emily," Jamal replied with a small smile. "It wasn't easy, but I couldn't just stay silent anymore." "Well, I think you made an impression," Emily said. "Not just on the clients, but on everyone in the room. You've shown a lot of strength, and people are noticing." Jamal nodded, appreciating her support. But even as he walked out of the office that evening, he couldn't shake the lingering frustration of Carter's treatment. He had worked so hard to prove himself, yet it often felt like no amount of effort would ever be enough in Carter's eyes. The next morning, Jamal arrived at the office to find an unusual hush in the air. Employees were gathered in small groups, whispering and casting curious glances toward the department manager's office. Jamal set his bag down at his desk and was about to ask Marcus what was going on when Robert Sterling walked in. "Good morning, everyone," Robert said, his authoritative voice commanding attention. "I have an important announcement to make." The room fell silent as Robert continued. "Effective immediately, Mr. Carter is no longer with Sterling Enterprises. We thank him for his contributions and wish him well in his future endeavors." Murmurs rippled through the office as Robert's words sank in. Jamal felt a jolt of surprise, followed by a sense of vindication. He glanced around, noticing the mix of shock and relief on his co-workers' faces. "I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge someone who has shown exceptional dedication, professionalism, and resilience," Robert said, his gaze landing on Jamal. "Jamal Thompson, your work has not gone unnoticed. You've demonstrated not only talent but also the kind of integrity we value deeply at this company. Keep up the great work." The room erupted into applause, and Jamal felt a wave of emotion rise in his chest. For the first time since he had started the internship, he felt truly seen and appreciated. Later that day, Robert invited Jamal to his office for a private conversation. As Jamal entered the sleek, modern space, he couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. "Have a seat, Jamal," Robert said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "I owe you an apology." "An apology?" Jamal repeated, confused. "Yes," Robert said firmly. "I encouraged you to apply for this internship because I wanted you to earn your place on your own merit. And you've done exactly that. But I also failed to step in sooner when I saw what you were going through with Carter. I should have acted sooner to address his behavior." Jamal shook his head. "You don't need to apologize, sir. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here." Robert smiled. "Your humility is admirable, Jamal, but don't downplay what you've accomplished. You've handled yourself with grace and professionalism under very difficult circumstances, and that speaks volumes about your character. I have no doubt you'll go far, whether it's here or anywhere else you choose to go." "Thank you, sir," Jamal said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "That means a lot to me." Over the next few weeks, the atmosphere in the office began to shift. With Carter gone, the tension that had once hung over the department like a dark cloud seemed to lift. Employees appeared more relaxed and collaborative, their conversations more open and engaging. For Jamal, the change was transformative. Without the constant pressure of Carter's hostility, he found himself thriving. Emily had taken on a temporary leadership role while the company searched for a new supervisor. Her supportive and approachable style encouraged the team to work together more effectively. She also made a point to publicly recognize individual contributions, a gesture that boosted morale significantly. Jamal, in particular, began to shine. With his natural curiosity and work ethic, he quickly became a go-to person for challenging tasks and projects. Colleagues who had once stayed silent during Carter's reign now offered him words of encouragement and praise. One afternoon, Marcus stopped by Jamal's desk with a cup of coffee. "Hey, thought you could use this," he said, placing the cup down with a grin. "Thanks, Marcus," Jamal said, smiling back. "I appreciate it. You know, you've really stepped up lately," Marcus said, leaning against the desk. "People are noticing. You've got talent, Jamal, and more importantly, you've got grit. Don't lose that." Jamal felt a warm sense of pride. "Thanks, Marcus. That means a lot. Coming from you." Marcus nodded. "Keep it up, kid. You've got a bright future ahead." Meanwhile, Robert Sterling continued to keep an eye on Jamal's progress. While he had always believed in his nephew's potential, seeing Jamal thrive under the right circumstances reinforced his confidence in him. Robert began to consider how he could help Jamal take the next step in his career while ensuring that his growth remained rooted in merit rather than favoritism. One day, Robert invited Jamal to lunch at a nearby restaurant. As they sat down, Robert's typically formal demeanor softened, revealing a more personal side. "Jamal, I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about your future," Robert began. "You've done an incredible job during your internship, and I think it's time we discuss where you go from here." Jamal blinked in surprise. "My future? Sir, I'm just focused on doing my best in this role right now." "And you're doing exactly that," Robert said with a smile. "But I see something in you, Jamal, something that tells me you're capable of much more. I don't want you to think of this internship as the peak of your journey. It's just the beginning." Jamal hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "I'm honored, sir. I mean, Uncle Robert," he said, correcting himself with a sheepish grin. "But I don't want any special treatment because of our relationship. I want to earn everything on my own." Robert nodded, his expression serious. "And that's exactly why I've kept our connection under wraps. I wanted you to have the chance to prove yourself, and you've done that. But there's no shame in accepting help when it's offered, especially when it's earned." After their lunch, Robert began to involve Jamal in more high-profile projects. While Jamal was initially intimidated by the increased responsibility, he quickly rose to the challenge. His ability to analyze complex problems and present clear, innovative solutions impressed not only Robert, but also other senior leaders within the company. One of these projects involved preparing a proposal for a potential merger with another firm. The project was critical to the company's growth, and Robert entrusted Jamal with conducting key research and presenting his findings to the executive team. Jamal poured himself into the work, spending long hours meticulously analyzing data and preparing his presentation. When the day of the meeting arrived, he walked into the boardroom feeling a mix of nerves and determination. As he stood before the room of senior executives, Jamal took a deep breath and began. His presentation was clear, concise, and backed by well-researched data. He spoke with confidence, his passion for the project shining through. When he finished, the room erupted into applause. Several executives approached him afterward to commend his performance. "You've got a sharp mind, young man," one of them said. "If this is what you're capable of as an intern, I can't wait to see what you'll achieve in the future." Jamal thanked them, his heart swelling with pride. For the first time, he felt like he truly belonged in the corporate world. As the internship neared its end, Robert called Jamal into his office once more. This time, there was a sense of finality in the air, but also excitement. "Jamal, I want to offer you a full-time position here at Sterling Enterprises," Robert said, his tone warm and genuine. "You've proven yourself to be an invaluable asset to this company, and I'd be honored to have you join us permanently." Jamal's eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious?" I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Robert said with a chuckle. "You've earned this, Jamal, and I have no doubt that you'll continue to grow and succeed." Tears of gratitude welled in Jamal's eyes as he extended his hand. "Thank you, Uncle Robert. I won't let you down." Jamal's journey from intern to full-time employee was a testament to his resilience, determination, and unwavering belief in himself. He had faced adversity head-on, proving that even in the face of injustice, it was possible to rise above and achieve greatness. As he settled into his new role, Jamal carried with him the lessons he had learned along the way. He made it a point to mentor new interns, offering them the same support and encouragement he had longed for during his early days. And while Carter's name became little more than a footnote in the company's history, Jamal's story became a source of inspiration for employees at every level. He was a reminder that true success wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder, it was about lifting others as you rose. As Jamal settled into his new role at Sterling Enterprises, he quickly became a cornerstone of the team. His willingness to mentor others and his ability to tackle challenges head-on earned him the respect of his colleagues. What had once been an uphill battle to prove himself had turned into a platform for growth, leadership, and positive influence. One of the first projects Jamal spearheaded in his new role involved revamping the company's intern program. Drawing from his own experiences, he worked closely with Emily and Marcus to design a program that fostered inclusivity, support, and development. He wanted to ensure that future interns wouldn't face the same struggles he had endured under Carter's leadership. "We need to create an environment where interns feel valued and empowered," Jamal said during a planning meeting. "Their success is our success. If we invest in them, they'll be more motivated to contribute to the company's growth." Emily nodded in agreement. "I love this approach, Jamal. It's exactly what we need to attract and retain top talent." The new intern program launched with great success, drawing praise from employees across the company. Interns were paired with mentors, provided with regular feedback, and given opportunities to work on meaningful projects. The program became a model for other departments, and Jamal's leadership in its development didn't go unnoticed. Meanwhile, Jamal's relationship with Robert deepened beyond the professional. While they had always shared a familial bond, working together had given them a new level of mutual respect. Robert often invited Jamal to join him for lunch or coffee, using the time to share insights and advice from his years of experience as a CEO. One afternoon, as they sat in Robert's office discussing a potential new client, Robert leaned back in his chair and gave Jamal a thoughtful look. "You know, Jamal, I see a lot of myself in you," he said. "You've got the drive, the vision, and the ability to connect with people. That's a rare combination." Jamal smiled, feeling both honored and humbled. "Thank you, Uncle Robert. That means a lot coming from you." Robert nodded. "But there's one more thing I want to share with you. Something that's just as important as all the skills and knowledge you've gained." "What's that?" Jamal asked, leaning forward. "Never forget where you came from," Robert said. "The challenges you've faced, the people who've supported you, and the values that have guided you. Those are what will keep you grounded as you climb higher. Success is meaningless if you lose sight of what truly matters." Jamal nodded, taking his uncle's words to heart. He had always been driven by a desire to make a difference, not just for himself but for others as well. And he knew that his journey was far from over. As the months went by, Jamal continued to excel in his role, earning accolades and building strong relationships within the company. But he never let his success go to his head. Instead, he used his platform to advocate for positive change, pushing for initiatives that promoted diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of his proudest moments came during a company-wide event celebrating employee achievements. Robert took the stage to deliver a speech, highlighting the company's progress and the contributions of its employees. "Today, I want to acknowledge someone who embodies the values of Sterling Enterprises," Robert said, his gaze sweeping the audience. "Someone who has faced adversity with grace, turned challenges into opportunities, and inspired us all with his dedication and vision." The audience erupted into applause as Robert turned to Jamal. "Jamal Thompson, your journey has been nothing short of remarkable. You remind us of the power of resilience, integrity, and hard work. Thank you for everything you've brought to this company." Jamal stood, overwhelmed by the standing ovation that followed. As he made his way to the stage to accept the award Robert handed him, he couldn't help but think back to his first day as an intern. The road had been long and often difficult, but every step had brought him closer to this moment. After the event, Jamal received countless congratulations from his colleagues, many of whom expressed how much his story had inspired them. Among them was a young intern named Olivia, who approached him with a shy smile. "Mr. Thompson, I just wanted to say thank you," Olivia said. "Your story gave me the courage to apply for this internship. I was so scared I wouldn't be good enough. But seeing everything you've accomplished made me believe in myself." Jamal smiled warmly. "Thank you, Olivia. That means a lot to me. And for the record, you are more than good enough. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Olivia beamed, her confidence visibly boosted by his words. As Jamal drove home that evening, he reflected on how far he had come. The boy who had once doubted himself had grown into a man who was not only achieving his dreams but also helping others achieve theirs. He had learned that true success wasn't measured by titles or accolades but by the impact one had on others. Pulling into his driveway, Jamal stepped out of the car and took a deep breath, the cool evening air filling his lungs. He looked up at the sky, the stars shining brightly above, and felt a deep sense of gratitude for his family, his mentors, and every challenge that had shaped him into the person he had become. As he walked into his home, his phone buzzed with a message from Robert. "Proud of you, nephew. The best is yet to come." Jamal smiled, his heart filled with hope and determination. The journey wasn't over, but he was ready for whatever came next. As Jamal's journey at Sterling Enterprises continued, he found himself taking on more significant roles and responsibilities. His leadership qualities shone through, and his ability to navigate challenges with both strategy and empathy set him apart. Within a year of becoming a full-time employee, Jamal was promoted to a project manager role, a position that allowed him to lead his own team and oversee critical initiatives. With this new role came a new set of challenges. Jamal's team was diverse, with members from different backgrounds, skill levels, and personalities. It was his first time managing a group of people, and he quickly realized that leadership wasn't just about delegating tasks. It was about understanding, motivating, and supporting each individual. Jamal approached the role with humility and an eagerness to learn. He held one-on-one meetings with each team member to understand their strengths, goals, and concerns. He encouraged open communication and fostered an environment where everyone felt valued and heard. "Leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room," Jamal often said during team meetings. "It's about creating a space where every voice matters." His approach paid off. Under Jamal's guidance, the team became a cohesive unit, delivering exceptional results on their projects. One of their most notable achievements was the successful launch of a new client platform that streamlined operations and improved customer satisfaction. The project received widespread praise, further solidifying Jamal's reputation as a rising star within the company. Meanwhile, Jamal's impact extended beyond his immediate team. He became an advocate for initiatives that supported diversity and inclusion within the company, working closely with HR and senior leaders to implement meaningful changes. He championed the idea of mentorship programs for underrepresented employees, ensuring that everyone had access to the resources and guidance needed to succeed. One day, during a company town hall, Jamal was invited to speak about his experiences and the importance of fostering an inclusive workplace. Standing before a room filled with colleagues and senior executives, he shared his journey with honesty and vulnerability. "When I first started here, I faced challenges that tested my confidence and resilience," Jamal said. "But what kept me going was the belief that I could make a difference, not just for myself but for others." Inclusion isn't just a policy. It's a commitment to creating opportunities for everyone to thrive. And that's what I strive to do every day. The audience erupted into applause, and Robert, seated in the front row, couldn't have been prouder. Jamal's speech resonated deeply, inspiring many employees to reflect on their own roles in fostering a positive and inclusive workplace culture. Outside of work, Jamal remained grounded, maintaining close ties with his family and community. He frequently visited his old neighborhood, volunteering at local schools and mentoring young students who reminded him of himself. He shared his story with them, emphasizing the importance of perseverance and self-belief. One of these visits stood out in particular. Jamal was invited to speak at his former high school, where he had once been an ambitious but uncertain student. Standing in the auditorium filled with students, teachers, and parents, he felt a rush of nostalgia and gratitude. "I know what it's like to doubt yourself," Jamal said, addressing the crowd, "to feel like the odds are stacked against you. But let me tell you something. Your circumstances don't define your future. You do. With hard work, determination, and the support of the people around you, you can achieve more than you ever imagined." After his speech, a young boy approached him, clutching a notebook filled with sketches and ideas. "Mr. Thompson, do you think I could be like you one day?" the boy asked, his eyes filled with hope. Jamal crouched down to meet his gaze. "You can be even better," he said with a smile. "Dream big, work hard, and never give up on yourself." Back at Sterling Enterprises, Jamal's influence continued to grow. He was invited to join the company's Leadership Development Program, a prestigious initiative designed to prepare high-potential employees for executive roles. The program was rigorous, but Jamal embraced the challenge, eager to expand his knowledge and skills. As part of the program, he attended workshops, collaborated with leaders from other departments, and participated in a mentorship pairing with none other than Robert Sterling himself. The mentorship sessions were transformative, offering Jamal insights into strategic thinking, decision-making, and the nuances of running a large organization. "Leadership isn't about knowing all the answers," Robert told Jamal during one of their sessions. "It's about asking the right questions and empowering others to find the answers. Trust your team, trust your instincts, and never stop learning." Jamal took these words to heart, applying them not only in his work but also in his personal growth. He began to see himself not just as an employee but as a leader with the potential to make a lasting impact. As the years went by, Jamal's career continued to flourish. He became a trusted advisor to senior leaders, a mentor to countless employees, and a driving force behind some of the company's most successful initiatives. But through it all, he never lost sight of the values that had guided him from the start. One evening, as Jamal stood in his office overlooking the city skyline, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From the humbling challenges of his internship to the triumphs of his current role, every step had shaped him into the person he was today. He thought of his family, his mentors, and the many people who had supported him along the way. And he thought of Carter, whose cruelty had once threatened to derail his confidence, but had ultimately fueled his determination to succeed. With a deep breath, Jamal turned back to his desk, where a framed photo of his family sat beside a plaque that read, "Success is measured not by what you achieve, but by what you inspire in others." He smiled, knowing that his journey was far from over. There were still challenges to face, goals to achieve, and lives to impact. And Jamal was ready for all of it. Years later, Jamal stood at the podium of a grand ballroom, addressing a crowd of hundreds at Sterling Enterprises' annual gala. The event celebrated the company's achievements, but this year, it was also honoring Jamal as he was officially being named Vice President of Operations, a monumental accomplishment that reflected his years of hard work, leadership, and impact. The audience, filled with colleagues, mentors, friends, and family, erupted into applause as Jamal stepped forward to deliver his speech. Dressed in a sleek navy suit, his calm demeanor belied the overwhelming emotions he felt. This was a moment he had dreamed of but never imagined would come in such a profound way. "Good evening, everyone," Jamal began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Standing here tonight, I can't help but reflect on the journey that brought me to this moment. It's been a road filled with challenges, lessons, and so many incredible people who have shaped and supported me along the way." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room, landing briefly on his mother, who sat near the front, her face glowing with pride. "When I started at Sterling Enterprises as an intern, I was just a young man eager to prove myself, unsure of what the future held. I faced obstacles that tested my resilience and moments of doubt that made me question if I belonged. But I learned something valuable through it all: the importance of perseverance, integrity, and believing in the power of what we can achieve together." Jamal's speech wasn't just about his own journey. It was a tribute to the people who had walked alongside him. He spoke about Emily, Marcus, and his co-workers who had supported him during his toughest moments. He shared anecdotes about his time as an intern, including the moment he had stood up to Carter, not knowing that it would be a turning point in his career. "Back then, I thought standing up for myself was the hardest thing I'd ever have to do," Jamal said with a small smile. "But I've come to realize that the real challenge and the real reward lies in standing up for others. Whether it's mentoring a colleague, advocating for inclusion, or simply listening to someone who needs to be heard, we all have the power to lift each other up." The audience nodded and smiled in agreement, many of them reflecting on how Jamal's presence in the company had made a difference in their own lives. Jamal then turned his attention to Robert, who sat at a table surrounded by the company's leadership team. "I want to take a moment to thank someone who has been a guiding light in my journey. My uncle, Robert Sterling. He believed in me even when I doubted myself, and he taught me the true meaning of leadership. Uncle Robert, your support and mentorship have been invaluable, and I'm honored to carry forward the legacy you've built here at Sterling Enterprises." Robert, clearly moved, stood and raised a glass in Jamal's honor, prompting another round of applause from the audience. As Jamal concluded his speech, he spoke directly to the younger employees and interns in the room. "To anyone who's just starting out, who feels like they're climbing a mountain they can't quite see the top of, keep going. Your hard work matters. Your voice matters. And you belong here. Never let anyone make you feel otherwise." With that, he stepped back from the podium, and the room erupted into a standing ovation. As he looked out at the sea of faces, many of whom he had inspired, mentored, or worked alongside, Jamal felt a profound sense of gratitude and fulfillment. This wasn't just his success. It was a testament to the power of resilience, community, and the belief that we all have the potential to achieve greatness. That night, as the gala wound down and guests began to leave, Jamal found himself standing alone on the balcony overlooking the city. The cool breeze and the twinkling lights felt almost surreal, a stark contrast to the quiet struggles and self-doubt he had faced years ago. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Robert approaching, a warm smile on his face. "You did good tonight," Robert said, clapping a hand on Jamal's shoulder. "Thanks, Uncle Robert," Jamal replied, his voice soft but filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." Robert shook his head. "You did this, Jamal. You worked hard, you stayed true to yourself, and you earned every bit of it. I'm just proud I got to witness it, The two stood in comfortable silence for a moment, taking in the view. Finally, Robert spoke again. "So, what's next for you?" Jamal smiled, his eyes glinting with determination. "To keep growing, keep learning, and keep making a difference. There's still so much to do." Robert nodded, his expression filled with pride. "I have no doubt you'll do exactly that." As they turned to head back inside, Jamal felt a sense of peace and purpose. The road ahead was still long, but he was ready for whatever challenges and opportunities awaited. After all, he had learned that success wasn't just about reaching the top. It was about the journey, the people you helped along the way, and the legacy you left behind.